I'm your host, Carolyn Solo, LCSW, EMDR therapist, and mom of 3 daughters. Thank you for joining me.
Hello, and welcome to episode 83 of the Future Template Parent Podcast. I am your host, Carolyn Solo, LCSW, PhD, EMDR consultant, and mom of 3 daughters. Today, I am doing something that I have never done before. It really isn't that exciting, but it's new. So I am actually recording this episode with no notes, with no outline. It's completely off the cuff because those of you who have been listening for a while may recall that in November, the week of the election, I felt too overwhelmed to record. November ended up being kind of a spotty month for podcast recordings. I think I only recorded maybe 2 episodes out of 4 that I meant to record. And, this past week with the inauguration happening last Monday felt really heavy and hard and dispiriting and hopeless. And so I was really struggling to record again, but I decided that I am just going to throw something out there, just some off the cuff thoughts about what I've been pondering in this past week and how that relates to EMDR intensives, because I do think it does. And just do something totally unscripted because something's better than nothing. So here we are. I am showing up with no notes. So what I do want to talk about today in terms of intensives or just generally, is like 2 basic things. One is sustainable action as we move through a very difficult future for this country and the world, I think. And sustainable action is one. And 2, how EMDR intensives can actually help this world that I feel like is in a state of crisis, and the role that you all can play in that. So sustainable action, first of all, is something I've been thinking about a lot. I think that in 2016, a lot of us, myself included, were just so horrified and outraged and in such shock and disbelief that we were very reactive and tried to just do all the things all at once, tried to go to all the protests and write our senators and engage in all these boycotts, and none of those are bad or wrong or anything. But what happened to me, and I know to a lot of other people, is that I burned out on that level of engagement and activism. And then after maybe a year and a half, I wasn't doing a whole lot of anything. I did do a lot of anti-racism work myself, which I think was the best thing that I could have done. But a lot of the other steps of things that I thought I was going to keep doing and organizing and this and that, I just couldn't sustain it for a number of reasons. And so I stopped. And I think that happened to a lot of people. We all felt like we were in such a state of utter terror about the fact that Donald Trump had been elected and was our president now. We felt like I have to do all the things, because if I don't, this is going to, things are going to fall apart and I'm going to be responsible. And certainly that's, of course, there's always so much more than just that. No one of us is responsible. So what I've been thinking about a lot this time around is how I can keep that from happening again. And I think that honestly, like, one of the things that happens that is that in these regimes of, sort of tyrannical regimes, which I believe the Trump presidency is, in an attempt to kind of grind down the people who are resisting, just throwing so much chaos and noise out there so people don't know what to react to, right? And then I think the first week of the administration was an example of that. All these horrible executive orders, all these disgusting pronouncements that made us all feel like, oh shit, everything is going to fall apart. So I think figuring out ways to act sustainably is what's actually going to make a difference, right? We all need to have a couple of things that we commit to doing, and that we continue to do for the long haul, because we're all only one person, right? And so, but the more single people we have doing things that have a sustained impact, that is what's going to add up, and we're going to be able to maintain it. So I am focusing on sustainable action right now. And I will talk about 2 ways that I have decided to engage in sustainable action. One is I've decided to I've set up monthly recurring contributions to Therapy for Black Girls, which is a organization that I care about very much. It is what it says it is. It is a fund to provide high quality therapy to Black people, to Black women in particular. And I'm giving, close to the cost of a single session per month, which feels good to me to think like, hey, one person is getting a high quality therapy session once a month in my name, and the therapist is also getting compensated well for that. Like, I'm not saying like, here's $20, that's what I think a session should cost. So, and I'm signed up to have a recurring, donation taken out in my name, so I don't have to do anything else. It's all set up, it just comes out every single month, done. So that's one thing. Because I do think that as white people in particular, we owe reparations to Black people, and money does matter. And and because I have created an income for myself that, thanks to intensives, that makes it possible for me to make a sizable donation like that every month, I feel an obligation to do it. And this is one of the reasons why I think that charging a high fee matters, because then you actually can financially contribute in meaningful ways without compromising your own well-being. So that's one thing I've chosen to do. And the other thing that I've chosen to do is to get involved in a local organization in my town that works with food insecurity. And I'm not getting, I'm not saying I'm going to be the head of the board or anything like that. I am making, I'm doing some volunteer work a couple of hours a month, and that is my sustainable commitment. So those are two things that I know I can do, that I know that I can continue to do. And one of the things that I find important about both of them is they're both causes that I believe in. And two, there's a community element built in. Because I think the other thing we all need to be doing during this time is continuing to develop and maintain community that is supportive and that holds us and that is life-giving. And we don't know what the future is going to bring, right? But if we have developed strong connections with each other in a world that wants us to be isolated, capitalism wants us to be isolated and to feel like we are responsible for just ourselves and no one else. The more we can push back against that by creating like really compelling community ties, the better, right? So, when I'm doing volunteer work, I'm meeting other people who care about the same thing. That builds that fabric that is so important, and where we're, mutually supporting each other. And so I think that those are two things. Like, there's a financial piece, there's a sustainability piece. Like, I'm financially supporting an organization that is, all about the well-being of Black women. And I feel like as a white person, that is my obligation to donate to organizations that support Black people in terms of reparations. Two, I am doing something that is community oriented, the food insecurity in my very local community. And three, I'm doing volunteer work like in person. So I'm building connections with other people in my community. I really think that the more closely knit we can be with a community network, the more we're going to be able to be there for each other, whatever happens down the pike. So that's one piece of what I wanted to talk about today, sustainable action. And the second piece is, what do EMDR intensives have to do with showing up in a world that feels scary and dark? Well, I firmly believe that when we offer EMDR intensives, create opportunities for healing that are accelerated and incredibly meaningful. And the more healing people we have out there in the world, the more they're able to show up as the people that they want to be. They're more freed of fear of judgment, fear of, acting in accordance with their values. They feel more empowered. And that gives people the strength to stand up in these times, which feel really scary. And so I really do believe that EMDR intensive therapists have a huge role to play in creating a world in which people can be the best versions of themselves, right? Like, we think about our so-called world leaders, and how many of them have really done the work to heal themselves from the obvious childhood wounds that many of them have? Not a whole lot. And I'm not saying I'm going to be sending emails to Elon Musk being like, hey, do you want to do an EMDR intensive? Like, not at all. But I am going to be continuing to make my services available to give people that opportunity for deep healing and self-knowledge, right? The more we truly know ourselves, the more attention and love we give those wounded parts of us, those young parts of us, how much more able are we to show up on behalf of those who need us, right? And on behalf of ourselves, to stop hiding behind fear of what others will think about us, fear of what others will say about us. So I really implore you as an EMDR therapist to think about how adding intensives to your practice is an act of service that you can do and is something that you can sustain, because for all the reasons I always talk about, EMDR intensives allow you to make more money in less time and make greater impact. And those three things all together, that is the burnout prevention recipe, right? So we don't need more burned out therapists, especially in times like these. The things that people are going to be coming to us with are going to be heavy, and they're going to be heavy for them, and they're going to be heavy for us. A lot of our own fears are going to be activated by what our clients are bringing to us. Okay. So we need to be very intentional about how we use our energy in our professional lives so that we are not completely drained and unable to do our best work with our clients, one, and two, show up in those sustainable ways that I was talking about before that we've committed to. So I really, really, really want you to be thinking even more seriously about EMDR intensives if you're not offering them already. And, just one tiny little plug as I finish this up. I still have one spot left in my group. The first call, I've actually pushed it back to the first week of February. So you can join the group anytime up until that first group call. You could even join after, but I would hate for you to miss the group component, which talk about building community. Building community with other therapists who are doing the same work that you do and who are struggling through the same world that you're struggling through, right? There is no dollar amount that you can put on that can really express how valuable that is. So I think that if you're looking for that kind of community in this winter and spring, as we move through this scary time, where you can be building a practice that has a ton of meaning for you and that can make an impact and be doing it in a sustainable way, my EMDR intensive 12-week intensive group is for you and is still open for you. You get 6 2-hour group calls. You get over 12 hours of a video course that teaches you everything you need to know, from mindset to marketing to fee setting to getting clients to what to say on a consult call, so seal the deal, to a boatload of clinical skills that will make your intensives incredibly transformational, which will make you feel like it's sustainable. And you get your 12 hours towards certification or becoming a consultant. This offer still stands. I want this for you. I want you to get to the time of the year. You'll get through the winter, early spring, and it'll be warm, and you'll have that practice of your dreams. So please, if you're still interested in that, don't hesitate to reach out. I would love to have you. And in the meantime, I just want to say that, we need each other more than ever, and we need to keep ourselves well so that we can continue to show up in this time that feels really, really hard. I hope that this has been a little bit uplifting for you and maybe giving you some stuff to think about. I think we all just need to continue making it very clear where we stand, what our values are as therapists. And, if my message is off-putting to you, then you're probably listening to the wrong person, and I don't need you in this community, and that's okay. I'm not going to pretend that everyone is, on the same page. That's not true. And I don't need people in my world that are spewing any kind of hate. So it's such an important value for me now to be creating a community of people who want to help and hold and protect each other. So, and I hope you're doing the same. Anyway, be well, keep taking care of yourselves, keep slowing down and engaging in intentional, sustainable action, and keep engaging in the kind of self-care that gives you life and energy, because that's what we need now more than ever. So I wish you all a good week. I'll be back with something a little bit more in my normal vein next time, but I felt like I had to kind of speak on where my heart has been and my mind has been since Monday the 20th. And be well. Take care of each other. Talk to you soon.